Some stories are too shocking to believe, yet too real to ignore. This is the story of a young woman who faced unimaginable darkness, betrayed by trust, trapped by fear, and forced to fight for her life. A story of love, loss, and survival. A story that will stay with you long after this video ends. This is the unbelievable case of Michelle Knight. Michelle Knight was just 21 years old, a young woman with dreams as big as the sky but weighed down by the harsh reality of life. She had never known true stability. Growing up, her home was a place of constant struggle, arguments, financial problems, and an overwhelming sense that she was always fighting to survive. But amidst all the chaos, there was one light in her life: her son, Joey. A sweet, innocent little boy with bright eyes and a laugh that could melt even the hardest of hearts. He was her world. But raising a child as a single mother was like trying to hold back the ocean with bare hands. She wanted to give Joey everything: a safe home, a good education, a life filled with love. But how could she provide when she had nothing? With no stable job, no college degree, and no real support system, every day was a battle. She went from one job interview to the next, hoping, praying that someone would give her a chance. But doors kept closing in her face. Not enough experience. Not the right qualifications. We'll call you back. But the calls never came. Still, she refused to give up. She was determined. For Joey. But fate had other plans. Late at night, when Joey was fast asleep, Michelle would sit at the table, staring at the overdue rent notice. She ran her fingers over the paper, already knowing what it said. She was behind again. There were nights when she barely ate, just so Joey could have enough. There were times when she lay awake, wondering how much longer she could keep pushing forward before everything collapsed. She had no time for herself. No time for dreams. Only survival. Despite everything, Joey never knew hunger. He never knew how close they were to losing everything. To him, his mother was a superhero. Every night, she would tuck him into bed, pressing a kiss to his forehead. "Mommy loves you," she would whisper. And every night, Joey would look up at her with trusting, innocent eyes and say, "I love you too, Mommy." Those words kept her going. No matter how hard life became, as long as Joey was safe, she could endure anything. But fate was cruel. And Michelle didn't know that soon, she would lose the one thing she loved most in the world. Because sometimes, love isn't enough to keep the darkness away. Michelle had been exhausted working every odd job she could find, trying to make ends meet. Her son's father, however, had no patience for her struggles. He didn't understand the weight on her shoulders. The stress. The sleepless nights. And that night, the argument spiraled out of control. "You think you can do this alone?" he sneered, towering over her. "You can barely take care of yourself." Michelle clenched her fists, fighting back the tears. She wouldn't let him see her break. "I'm doing the best I can," she shot back. But anger is a dangerous thing. In the heat of the moment, he lashed out his hands, shoving her aside. Joey, standing nearby, stumbled backward. His tiny feet couldn't find balance in time. Then a sickening thud. Michelle's heart stopped. Joey lay motionless on the floor, his head striking the hard surface. And then the screaming started. Not hers. His. Her little boy. Racing against time. Michelle didn't remember how she got there. One moment, she was in her apartment, cradling Joey's fragile body, whispering desperate pleas. The next she was in a cold hospital waiting room, her hands shaking as she watched the doctors take him away. Minutes felt like hours. When the doctor finally returned, his expression was unreadable. "He's stable," he said, and for the first time that night, Michelle could breathe. But then his next words sent a new wave of terror through her chest. "We have some concerns. A child with a head injury. A mother without financial stability." To the doctors, it didn't look good. Hospital protocol required them to report suspicious injuries, especially in cases where a parent couldn't provide a clear explanation. Michelle tried to explain. "It was an accident. He fell. Please, you have to believe me." But once child services got involved, things were out of her hands. They asked questions. So many questions. And no matter what she said, nothing seemed to be enough. Within hours, a social worker arrived. And just like that, her world collapsed. "We're placing Joey in protective custody while we investigate," the woman told her, voice firm but emotionless. Michelle's knees buckled. "No, please," she sobbed. "He needs me. I'm his mother." But the woman wouldn't listen. Joey was carried away, his small arms reaching for her, his cries filling the air. And Michelle? Michelle could do nothing. That night, Michelle didn't sleep. She sat on the floor, staring at the empty space where Joey's toys used to be. The walls seemed colder. The air, thicker. She reached for his favorite stuffed animal, the one he always held close. Now, it was just a reminder of everything she had lost. But Michelle was not the kind of woman to give up. No matter how broken she felt. No matter how unfair the situation was. She knew one thing for certain. "I will get him back." The only way. Prove she could provide a stable home. She had to go to court. She had to fight. She had to be stronger than she had ever been before. The day had come. Her court hearing. This was her one chance to prove she could provide a stable home and bring Joey back. But there was a problem. She was lost. The city was a maze of unfamiliar streets, and every turn led to more confusion. She had asked for directions twice, but the answers only made things worse. Time was slipping away. Her stomach twisted with anxiety. What if she was late? What if the judge thought she didn't care? What if after everything she lost Joey forever? She tried to push the thought away, forcing her feet to move faster. Then a voice called out. "Hey, Michelle." She turned. And there, behind the wheel of a rusted old pickup truck, sat Ariel Castro. Ariel Castro was someone Michelle knew. Not well, but well enough to trust. He was the father of one of her friends, a man who was part of the community. He had kids of his own. To Michelle, he wasn't a stranger. And right now, she needed help. "Where you headed?" he asked, his voice casual. "I have court." "I need to get to the courthouse," Michelle replied, her voice slightly panicked. Ariel nodded knowingly. "Hop in. I'll take you." She hesitated. Just for a second. But then she glanced at her watch. Time was running out. The courthouse was still far away. She had no other option. So she opened the door and got inside. That one decision would change her life forever. At first, everything seemed fine. Ariel made small talk, asking about her situation. Michelle, still distracted by the thought of her court case, answered without much thought. She told him about Joey. About the social worker. About how much she missed her son. Ariel listened closely. too closely. There was something about the way he looked at her. Something that felt off. But Michelle didn't notice. Not yet. She was too busy staring out the window, counting the streets, making sure they were headed in the right direction. Then something strange happened. Ariel took a wrong turn. I think the courthouse is the other way, Michelle said, shifting uncomfortably in her seat. Ariel chuckled. Don't worry. I just need to stop by my house real quick. It's on the way. Michelle's gut twisted. Something wasn't right. But he was a dad. A father. He wasn't some random man on the street. So she ignored the feeling. And didn't ask any more questions. Ariel pulled into the driveway of a small, worn-down house. The curtains were drawn. The yard was overgrown. It looked empty. Michelle hesitated. I really don't have much time, she started to say. But Ariel was already getting out of the truck. It'll just take a second, he assured her, motioning toward the door. Come inside for a minute. I have a puppy in the back, maybe your son would like it. That made Michelle pause. A puppy? For Joey? For a moment, she imagined his little face lighting up with joy. And just like that, her guard dropped. She stepped out of the truck. Followed him inside. The door closed behind her. And in an instant the world as she knew it was gone. Michelle stepped inside, expecting to see a normal home. But something felt off. The house was too quiet. No sounds of a TV. No distant chatter. No signs of life. Just an unnerving silence. Her instincts whispered, leave. But before the thought could settle, Ariel was already closing the door behind her. A loud click echoed through the space. The door was locked. Michelle's heartbeat spiked. Something was wrong. Terribly, terribly wrong. Come on, Ariel said casually. The puppy's in the back room. Michelle hesitated. A small voice in the back of her mind screamed at her to turn around, to run. But her rational side fought back. He's a father, she reminded herself. He has kids. He wouldn't hurt me. And besides, she didn't want to be rude. So, she forced a small smile and followed him deeper into the house. But with every step forward, the sense of unease grew stronger. The hallway was narrow, suffocating. The air smelled stale, like it had been trapped inside for years. Something wasn't right. Her body knew it before her mind did. Her pulse hammered in her ears. Then they reached the room. Michelle stepped in and immediately knew she had made a mistake. The room was bare, lifeless, suffocating. No toys. No food bowls. No signs of a puppy. Just an empty space. She turned, her throat suddenly dry. Where's the puppy? She asked, forcing her voice to stay steady. Ariel didn't answer. Instead, he stepped inside and shut the door. A loud clunk. Then, he turned to face her. And that's when she saw it. The look in his eyes. A look that sent shivers down her spine. It was cold. Calculated. Inescapable. Michelle's stomach dropped. She took a step back. Then another. Her mind screamed, run. But there was nowhere to go. Her back hit the wall. Her breath came short and fast. Ariel, she started, trying to keep her voice calm. I need to go. I have cord, remember. But Ariel just tilted his head, watching her. Amused. like a predator studying its prey. Then he moved. Fast. Before she could react, his hands were on her, gripping her wrists, twisting, forcing her down. Michelle thrashed. She kicked, screamed, clawed at him. "Let me go," she begged. But Ariel was too strong, and her pleas meant nothing. Her fight lasted seconds, but it felt like a lifetime. She was outmatched. Her strength was nothing compared to his. Her screams were swallowed by the thick walls. No one would hear her. No one would come. She realized it all at once. She was trapped. The outside world no longer existed. It was just her. And him. And the nightmare that was about to begin. For 11 years, Michelle Knight's world was reduced to 4 walls, locked doors, and heavy chains. At first, she clung to hope. "They'll come looking for me," she told herself. "They have to." Days passed. Then weeks. Then months. And the realization sank in. No one was coming. Time became a blur. There were no windows. No clocks. Only the sound of Ariel's footsteps, the creak of the door opening, and the metal clinking of her chains. The days and nights blurred together, lost in an endless cycle of fear, isolation, and suffering. She tried marking time in her head, whispering to herself. One day down. One day closer to getting out. But as time dragged on, her whispers became meaningless. The world outside had moved on. But for Michelle, time had stopped. The worst part wasn't the chains. It wasn't the hunger, the pain, the exhaustion. It was the silence. No search parties. No missing posters. No news reports calling her name. She wasn't like the others, the girls that Ariel would later bring into his house. When they were taken, the city lit up with candlelight vigils, prayers, and search efforts. But Michelle had been forgotten before she even disappeared. Her family believed she had run away. The police barely investigated. And Joey, her son, was gone. She had no way of knowing if he was safe. Or if he even remembered her. She had fought so hard to get him back. But now who was left to fight for her? There's a kind of pain that isn't physical. A pain that settles deep in your bones, eating away at you from the inside. It was loneliness. It was despair. It was the slow erosion of hope. At first, she tried to fight it. She prayed. She whispered Joey's name. She imagined what life would be like if she got out. But as the months turned into years, the fight became harder. One day, she stopped praying. Another day, she forgot what Joey's voice sounded like. And one night she realized she didn't remember what fresh air smelled like. The world outside felt like a dream. Something she had imagined. Something that had never really existed. Would she ever be free again? Or was this how her story would end? Time had become a blur. Michelle didn't count the days anymore. She survived, that's all she could do. Then, one night, she heard it. A scream. Not her own. Someone else's. A voice, young, terrified, pleading. And in that moment, Michelle knew. She wasn't alone anymore. Her name was Amanda Berry. Just 16 years old. She had gone missing on April 21, 2003, the day before her 17th birthday. Michelle didn't know Amanda personally, but she knew her face. Everyone did. Amanda's family had never stopped looking for her. Her picture was on the news, on flyers, on billboards. She was wanted, missed, searched for. Michelle listened as Amanda begged, pleaded, screamed for help. But the house swallowed her cries whole. The world outside kept moving, unaware. And Michelle felt something she hadn't felt in a long time. Guilt. Because deep down, she knew Amanda was living her nightmare now. And there was nothing she could do to stop it. Then came Gina de Jesus. Just 14 years old. Kidnapped 1 year after Amanda, April 2, 2004. She was a friend of Ariel's daughter. That's how he lured her. A familiar face. A trusted adult. Just like Michelle, she never saw it coming. And just like Amanda, Gina's face was everywhere. The city surged. The police surged. The world surged. But for Michelle, nothing. Not a single missing poster. Not a single news story. No one even whispered her name. She watched from the shadows as the world prayed for the others. But for her, silence. Look at this, Ariel sneered, tossing a newspaper onto the floor. Michelle hesitated, then slowly picked it up. Her hands trembled as she unfolded it. Right there, on the front page. Amanda's family. Gina's family. Candlelight vigils. Search parties. National headlines. Michelle's throat tightened. Then, Ariel laughed. "Nobody cares about you," he said, his voice dripping with cruel amusement. "Nobody is coming for you." Michelle stared at the paper, her eyes burning. She wanted to scream. To cry. To break something. But she did none of those things. She wouldn't give him the satisfaction. Instead, she slowly folded the paper and placed it beside her. Then, she lifted her head and looked him straight in the eyes. "You're wrong," she whispered. Because even if the world had forgotten her, she hadn't forgotten herself. Then, one day a miracle happened. Amanda had a baby girl. Michelle could hardly believe it. A child. A new life in a house filled with darkness. For the first time in years, Michelle felt something other than pain. She felt hope. When Amanda placed the baby in Michelle's arms, something inside her broke. Because she remembered. She remembered holding Joey for the first time. His tiny fingers wrapped around hers. The warmth of his skin. The way his little heart beat against her chest. And suddenly the pain came rushing back. Was Joey safe? Did he remember her? Did he even know she existed anymore? Tears welled in her eyes. She looked down at the baby, so innocent, so unaware of the horrors surrounding her. And in that moment, she made a promise. She whispered it softly. "I'll protect you. No matter what." Because if she couldn't save herself, she would make sure this child survived. By 2013, Michelle had long stopped dreaming of freedom. She had spent 11 years in chains, forgotten, unseen, erased from the world. Days had blurred together, turning into a never-ending cycle of pain and survival. But then fate intervened. And it all started with a single mistake. Ariel had become careless. For years, he had meticulously controlled every detail: the locks, the chains, the threats. But on May 6, 2013, something was different. He had forgotten to lock the main door. It was a tiny miscalculation. But for Amanda, it was everything. She set her daughter down carefully, her heart pounding in her chest. Slowly, she approached the door. Her hands trembled as she reached for the handle. She twisted it, and to her utter shock, it turned. The door creaked open. For the first time in a decade, she could see the world beyond. And she wasn't going to waste this chance. Amanda didn't hesitate. She pushed the door wide open and ran. Her bare feet slapped against the pavement as she stumbled toward the street. Then she screamed, "Help! Please, help me! I've been kidnapped. I've been here for years. Help us!" The words poured out of her, frantic, desperate, a lifetime of fear exploding all at once. At first, no one moved. People had walked past this house for years, unaware of the horrors inside. But now the truth was spilling out onto the streets. And the world was finally listening. One of the first people to hear Amanda's cries was a neighbor, Charles Ramsey. He had been sitting outside, eating when he heard the shouting from across the street. At first, he thought it was just a domestic argument. But when he saw Amanda's panicked expression, the way she was banging on the door, struggling to get out, he knew something was wrong. "What's going on?" he called out. Amanda's voice broke with urgency. "Help me. I've been kidnapped. There are more girls inside." Ramsey didn't hesitate. He ran up to the house, looked inside, and saw pure darkness. And then he did something that would change history. He kicked the door open. As soon as she was free, Amanda grabbed a phone and called 911. Her voice was shaking, but her words were clear. "Help. My name is Amanda Berry. I've been missing for 10 years, and I'm free now." The dispatcher froze. Amanda Berry? The Amanda Berry? The girl who had been missing for a decade? The call spread like wildfire through police channels. And within minutes sirens filled the air. Michelle didn't know what was happening. She heard footsteps louder than usual. Voices frantic, urgent. Then a crash. The sound of a door being broken down. And then the words she never thought she'd hear. "We're the police. You're safe now." Michelle froze. For a moment, she thought she was hallucinating. Could it be real? Could this really be happening? Then officers burst into the room. And for the first time in 11 years, Michelle heard words that shattered the chains that had bound her. "It's over. You're free." The night air felt foreign. Cool. Fresh. Real. Michelle breathed it in, but it was overwhelming, like stepping onto an entirely different planet. She had spent 11 years in darkness. And now she was free. But as she looked around at the chaos, the reporters, the flashing lights, the unfamiliar faces, the reality of it all hit her. Everything had changed. And she wasn't sure if she belonged anymore. Michelle was given a phone. They told her she could call her family. She hesitated. For years, she had dreamed of this moment, reuniting with the people who once loved her, hearing her mother's voice, telling them she was alive. But something felt wrong. She dialed. The phone rang. Once. Twice. Then a voice answered. "Hello." Michelle's heart pounded. "Mom? It's me. It's Michelle." A long silence. Then her mother's voice, shaky, unsure. "Michelle, oh my God. I thought you were dead." But the relief wasn't there. The excitement was missing. Her mother didn't cry. She didn't rush to the hospital. Instead, she said words that shattered Michelle's heart all over again. "Why didn't you just come home?" Michelle froze. Tears burned in her eyes. She wanted to scream, "I couldn't. I was chained. I was trapped. I never stopped trying to come home. But instead, she swallowed the pain. She realized something that hurt more than all the years in captivity. Her family had moved on without her. And they weren't coming back. But the worst part was yet to come. A doctor sat her down. His tone was gentle, his words carefully chosen. But nothing could prepare her for what he was about to say. "Michelle, we need to talk about your son." Michelle's heart clenched. Joey. Her baby. The one she had fought for, lived for, survived for. "Where is he?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. The doctor sighed. "Michelle. Joey was adopted. Years ago. By a family that loves him." Michelle's entire world collapsed. She felt like she was falling, drowning, disappearing. "No," she choked out. "No, I was supposed to get him back. They told me if I went to court, if I proved I was a good mother, he would come home." The doctor's eyes were filled with pity. "I'm so sorry, Michelle. But he has a life now. He doesn't know you." The words felt like knives to her chest. All those years, she had held onto the hope of seeing him again. And now, he was gone. Not missing. Not dead. Just, gone. Living a life where she no longer existed. Freedom was supposed to be beautiful. But for Michelle it was terrifying. She couldn't sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she was back in that house. The chains. The darkness. The sound of Ariel's footsteps approaching. The nightmares came relentlessly. And when she finally woke up, the silence felt just as cruel. Because now, there was no one there. For years, she had fought to stay alive, to escape, to reunite with the world. But now that she was free, where was she supposed to go? She had lost everything. Her home. Her family. Her son. Even her identity felt like it had disappeared. But Michelle was not broken. She had survived 11 years of hell. She had faced the unimaginable, and still, she was here. And if she had to build a new life from nothing, then so be it. She would. For herself. For Joey. For every girl who had ever been trapped in darkness. She would not let Ariel win. She was free now. And she would never let anyone take that from her again. For over a decade, Ariel Castro had lived in darkness, controlling every moment of Michelle's life. But now he was the one in chains. The courtroom was silent as he shuffled to his seat, his orange prison uniform a stark contrast to the arrogance he once carried. Michelle, Amanda, and Gina sat in the front row, their faces unreadable. They had spent years trapped in his world. Now, they would watch as his world collapsed. The trial was swift. The evidence was undeniable. The chains. The locks. The horrors hidden behind closed doors. There was no defense, no excuse, no redemption. The judge's voice rang clear and strong. "Ariel Castro, you are hereby sentenced to 1,000 years in prison without the possibility of parole." The courtroom erupted. Some people cheered. Others wept, a mix of relief and rage that it had taken this long. But Michelle just sat still, her expression unreadable. Because she knew a sentence wasn't enough. Nothing could erase what he had done. Nothing could give her back the years he stole. And deep down, she knew he would never serve his time. A month later he was dead. He had taken the easy way out. In the same kind of isolation he had forced Michelle to endure, he crumbled. the man who had once played God over 3 innocent lives, had been unable to face his own reality. And just like that, it was over. Michel stared at the screen. People called it justice. But was it? He had escaped the slow, painful life sentence he deserved. He had never truly suffered, never apologized, never answered for what he had done. For years, she had imagined what she would say to him if she ever got the chance. But now there would never be a chance. He was gone. And there was nothing left to say. For so long, her story had been written by someone else. By her family, who abandoned her. By the system, which failed her. By Ariel Castro, who stole her freedom. But not anymore. She didn't need an apology. She didn't need answers. She didn't need justice from him. Because she had already won. She had survived. She was free. And that was the only ending that mattered. For 11 years, Michel had lived in darkness. For 11 years, someone else had controlled her story. But now the past would not define her. She was not just the girl who had been kidnapped. She was not just another forgotten name. She was Michelle Knight. And she was still here. She changed her name, leaving behind the past that tried to erase her. She built a new life, one that no one could take away from her again. And most importantly, she found her purpose. She became an advocate. A voice for those who had none. For every person still trapped in silence, in fear, in hopelessness, she stood as proof that survival was possible. That no matter how deep the darkness, there is always a way out. Her story was no longer just about pain and betrayal. It was a story of strength, of resilience, of survival. Because the past did not get to win. She did. To anyone still trapped in their own darkness. To those who feel forgotten, broken, or hopeless. Never stop fighting. Because no matter how deep the night, morning will always come. Michelle found her light. And so can you. If you found this story compelling, make sure to subscribe Crimes of Passion channel and turn on notifications. We bring you real stories of love, betrayal, and survival every week. Stay safe, stay aware, and always trust your instincts.